Scott, City Council President, and I'm joined by City Council Vice President Willie Lightfoot and Council Member Mitch Gruber. I wanted to share information with you regarding the recent decision issued by Judge Ark. We've been waiting for this for several months regarding Local Law 2 that established a transparent and highly supported Police Accountability Board. Last election day, around 75% of Rochesterians voted to approve a referendum that would allow for the establishment of an independent Police Accountability Board. That board would have the power to investigate complaints, the ability to subpoena information, the ability to review and evaluate Rochester Police Department patterns, practices, policies, and procedures, and to recommend systemic changes. And to many in our community, the most important element would have the ability to set minimum discipline for cases where a complaint is sustained against an officer. The disciplinary authority of the PAB is added to its efficacy. It adds to its credibility in the community. It is also important to note that when the PAB sets the minimum discipline for an officer, they would do so using a disciplinary matrix that would be created in consultation with the Chief of Police and the Locust Club. Today's decision negates the will of the citizens of Rochester. The City Council stands ready to appeal Judge Ark's ruling to the higher courts. We must operate within the context of our legal system, but the City Council is ready to defend the will of our citizens, and this decision is not the final say. The facts about this case, the case was in the Supreme Court under Judge Ark. Justice Ark first ruled against the council's ability to put the referendum vote on the ballot. In October of last year, the decision was appealed to the Fourth Department and the justice's decision was reversed. Justice Ark ruled on the case on its merits today. The council intends to appeal. We will appeal this ruling to the same court that overturned Justice Ark's decision the last time.
Okay, we would open it up to questions. If anyone has any questions, please just let me know that you have a question in the chat box. Okay, we'll start with Will Cleveland. Go ahead, Will.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm still trying to figure out all of this Zoom technology, I'm sure, as all of us are.
We all are.
Yeah, but hey, we're all in this together, right?
Yes.
So why is it so important for the board to have this disciplinary power? Because didn't Judge Ark recommend that you go through and reword the legislation or rework it in order to maybe change so it wouldn't be a violation of both state and local policy, like he was saying?
He did indeed, but again, I bring you back to the will of the people. And we did not arrive at this structure, the proposed structure, lightly. It was developed after an extended period of engagement, community engagement, various forums. This is not something that came about in short order. And the whole issue of police accountability, including discipline, is something that has been of major concern throughout our community for many, many years. So it is not even conceivable that we would pull out what is one of the central parts of the law that's being considered.
Thank you.
I'd also like to note that Andy Selly has joined us, President Scott, so you're aware. Okay, the next.
Good evening, Andy. Glad to see you.
The next question I have is from Jack Watson. Go ahead, Jack.
Hey, thanks so much for being here tonight to answer our questions. The ruling from Judge Ark today basically flies in the face of, it says that the PAB's disciplinary power would fly in the face of state law, city charter, and the union contract between the city of Rochester and the police union. Are you at all disputing the legal grounds of the ruling, or I mean, what exactly is your position there?
We obviously disagree, but I would call on Andy to speak more pointedly to that. You're muted, Andy.
Sorry.
Can Andy spell his name for us on the record, please? First,
Yes,
before you,
it's Andrew, and the last name is Celli.
and what is your capacity with the city?
I'm a lawyer representing the city council. I represented the council in this case.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Could you pronounce your last name for me?
Yes, it's Celli.
Celli.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Sure. We respect the court, but we vigorously disagree with its legal analysis. And the fundamental issue is that in 1907, the state of New York, through the state legislature, gave the city of New York the power to discipline officers. Having done that, and then having the voters of Rochester decide that that power should be exercised through the Police Accountability Board, we believe that local law 2 is fully consistent with state law, is an appropriate exercise of authority by the voters through the referendum process. And so the judge wrote a very long decision, and much as we respect the court, we disagree with virtually all of it.
Okay. I'll then move on. Jack, does that suffice for your question? Do you have a follow-up?
Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll move on to Spectrum News. Go ahead.
Thank you, and thanks for taking some time for us this evening. I guess I would just like to, and Will Cleveland kind of touched on it, but I'd like to take his question in a little different direction. Is there a future for the PAB? Can the PAB exist without the disciplinary? If you're going to appeal this, if ARC's ruling stands, where does that leave the PAB?
We will have a police accountability board regardless of the outcome of this decision. We want one that will encompass the 5 pillars that we've worked on and instituted. But in the absence of what we think is one of the most pertinent pillars, discipline, we still will have a PAB that's more robust and stronger than the current process that we operate under.
And I would just add, we currently have a PAB that is functioning very much in the way that it should be in the early parts of this. There's no executive director hired yet, which is still an ongoing search, and obviously there have been no cases seen by that PAB, but they continue to make progress. That doesn't dispute anything that President Scott said. We still believe that ultimately discipline is a key pillar of that board, and we will fight to make that happen.
If I could just follow up on that, in ARC's ruling, he talks about how he sees a future where the PAB can work alongside the police department. And then I spoke with the Locust Club earlier this afternoon, and they discussed a desire for, look, we'd love the PAB to go forward. We just want the city council to collaborate with us a little more. Is there room for that?
We absolutely look forward to working collaboratively with the Locust Club. And I think at the end of the day, we all want a police accountability process that people trust, that people believe is fair, that people believe is transparent. And I think we all want to work toward that end.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question of Mr. Celli? This is Bennett Loudon, RBJ.
Sure.
Sorry, we have a list of folks, but I can put you on after. The next
Okay,
question is going to come from Andrew Hyman.
Yeah, thank you for taking our call and taking the questions. Just real quick, Mike Mazzio had mentioned earlier today when we were asking him about going forward that one of the things he'd like to see on the table could be a neutral hearing officer as a way to compromise. Is that something A, he's brought up to you, and is that B, something, if you've heard about it, that you would support?
We've not had that conversation yet, but as I said, we're certainly open to working collaboratively with the Locust Club. At this juncture, we're going to work toward maintaining or retaining all of the elements that we have in the law as it currently stands. But we definitely are willing to work collaboratively with the Locust Club.
And I just like to reiterate something President Scott already mentioned. In the legislation as it's written, the intention is for the PAB to work collaboratively with the Locust Club and the police department. That is written specifically in the legislation. The idea is for the matrix to be worked on collaboratively. That was the goal from the start.
Okay. The next question is from Patty Singer, the Minority Reporter. Go ahead, Patty. You might be on mute, Patty.
Sorry. In Judge Ark's decision, he had written that the mayor had given a proposal in January, I think, of 2019 that would have avoided all the legal issues about discipline, but that went into a committee and never came out. Can you address what the council felt was insufficient with that proposal from the mayor?
As I indicated at the outset, one of the strongest pillars in our legislation has to do with discipline. And the proposal that the mayor put forth did not allow for that, that element.
But according to what the judge said, that would have been a legal proposal, that it was the discipline that's hanging this up right now.
I understand, but as I said, what we have pushed for over the years and throughout the entire process in working on this had to do with discipline, that the community, the residents of this city felt compelled to have a process that they could trust, that would be transparent, independent, accountable, all of those things that are attendant to having discipline in the way that we put forth local law too.
EJ, can I go one more before Bennett jumps in?
Go ahead, Patty, one more.
Okay, thanks. The judge also wrote that he's sending this back to council to reconcile issues that the judge says conflict with state and the city charter. While you're appealing this, are you going to be working on that reconciliation?
I think the path we're following right now is the appeal, and we'll see where that leads us.
Okay, go ahead, Bennett.
Mr. Kelly, you said that it sounds like you're relying heavily on the argument that the city was granted the right to impose discipline on police officers based on the 1907 charter. But Judge Ark's decision talks about the 1985 action that where the city decided to go a different route and have that authority controlled by state law. What about that? Can you explain how that fits into your argument about the authority granted under the charter?
Sure. Not to get super technical about it, but beginning about, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago, there's been a series of decisions from the highest court in New York about this exact issue. And in those decisions, the Court of Appeals has consistently held that the state can grant this power and only the state can remove that power. So where I think Justice Ark kind of went wrong, and again, I say this respectfully, was that he suggested that the fact that the city of Rochester back in the 80s decided to act as if the civil service law applied to it, that actually had the effect of making it so. And that isn't the way the law works. If the power is given by the state, it can only be removed by the state. And that's going to be our position on appeal. The city does not really have the power to change a state law. And so I know this is getting kind of in the weeds, but that's really going to be at the heart of our appeal.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bennett. I don't see any other questions. So,
Actually,
I
I'd
see.
like to follow up on that point.
Yeah, we'll do one follow-up from Spectrum.
Yeah, but also one of the other big things was about unionization and the collective bargaining. Are you worried that that is still going to be an obstacle in appealing this?
If you'd like, President Scott, I can address that.
Please do.
I don't think so. The way the law has developed is that there's been a tradition of collective bargaining in certain jurisdictions where, in fact, the city had the ultimate authority and was not permitted to bargain away the disciplinary rights. That's happened historically over the last 25 years. And we have these new cases from the Court of Appeals, these 3 cases that say, really, you can't do that. The law does change. The law is a developing entity. And, the fact that the city of Rochester engaged in collective bargaining historically really doesn't affect the legal analysis from our point of view.
Okay, we'll take one more question.
Hi.
Was that Bennett?
Nope, this is Patty. Patty with the last question.
Yeah, thanks. So, Mr. Celli, I'm in 5th grade. I'm looking for an explanation that I can give to readers that they're going to understand what it is that you are going to be appealing on. I mean, to paraphrase the Denzel Washington line, I'm in 5th grade. Help me out. help me understand this. Help their readers and listeners understand what is going to be the basis of the appeal in very simple language. Thank you.
Sure. Well, the only thing the judge did was said that the Police Accountability Board cannot set discipline. It was very narrow and limited. We are now going to ask the higher court to change that ruling and to find that New York State granted the power to the city of Rochester, and the city of Rochester has the power to give that authority to the Police Accountability Board. It's as simple as that. That may not be 3rd grade, but I hope it's 6th or 7th grade.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming to the press availability. Glad we were able to get it done, and we're gonna end now. Take it easy.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.